Hello, and welcome to What's Your Story? Thank you for joining us. We have a fabulous guest today. You're going to love her. She is the author of the book, Skiing Uphill. Now, that's right. I said skiing uphill. And our guest today is Pat Turner. Pat, we're so glad to have you here.
Well, thank you, Judy. I'm honored for you to talk to me.
Well, I have to tell you, your book is doing so well. I'm super impressed. You're just selling like crazy. But of course you would, because it's a good book. So let's just tell everybody about it. Um, the book Skiing Uphill is about your experience as well. Why don't you tell it about your accident and what happened?
Okay, well, when I was a senior in high school, 2 days before Christmas, it was a bad snow year, and we got out for Christmas vacation, and three of my friends and I went to Wenatchee just to celebrate. Hey, no more school for a while, and da 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 da. Well, on the way home, we hit a snowplow, and from those injuries, I didn't go home till March 1st.
So you went
And
straight to the hospital, right?
yes, yes. Well, I compound dislocated my right knee and dislocated my hip. It was before seatbelts. And we were in a Corvair, and the sudden stop from a snowplow, we had no one died. We're just lucky during that time, and the weather, and it was a miracle we survived, because I severed the vein or artery in the back of my knee, and so as each heartbeat, I was pumping out blood. So we were just lucky to get to the hospital, and I had surgery that night. They took a vein from my um, left leg groin and grafted me back together. Problem was, they put me in a hard cast to start with, lack of circulation and trauma. They took it off days later. I'm not sure how long it took, but from the swelling, I had a severe burn on the calf of my leg. So then I had 13 debriding surgeries, because now I'm a burn patient too. And the 13th, they found gangrene, and that was the end of my leg. So,
And so they removed your leg.
not that, yes, yeah. After 13 surgery, the 14th was the amputation. Yes.
Yeah,
So
so
that took, pardon me,
that would be quite a shock for just about anyone to have that
it
happen.
was.
But your story is amazing because you tell us in the book about these surgeries and about what you went through. And I mean, I could experience the pain, just read, well, not near the pain you had, but I mean, I could feel that you had pain, by reading the book. And it's such an incredible story that you lived through all of what you went through. Because you
I
were
agree.
you were like a really happy teenager with a really super family. You lived on a kind of a fruit plantation, a fruit farm. Would you call it a farm? And
Or
an orchard. Yeah, that's what it was.
yeah,
Your parents had the
yeah.
orchards, and you just grew up being a happy, wonderful kid. And then this happens to you, and it's a tragedy. And it's a tragedy. And so
Well,
this is your story. It's your memoir.
correct. Yeah, it was not only a tragedy, but it happened at a crossroad of my adulthood. I was graduating from high school, and I was 18 by the time I lost my leg. And one of the positives that I can come away with is that I did not have a profession yet. And so I was searching already. And in my lifetime, I've met a number of amputee men who could not do their profession, and they were very angry and bitter. I didn't have that. So it took a while to figure out what I wanted to do, but actually it was my junior year of college. And I had a literature teacher that we went to a school and sat in the hall and read with kids, and I was hooked. And so from then on, I did my education classes and got my certificate and degree, and I was off and running.
And
So
became
it was a good profession for me because I touched kids with more than academics.
yes,
I touched,
yes.
yeah, I
Because
touched them with life
most children,
lessons.
here you are now, you're teaching, and most children have never experienced being around someone who's lost a limb. And so they experience that. And in your book, you tell some of the stories about things the kids said and did, which is really quite fun.
Well, one that comes to mind right now, we were waiting in line for a seat at a restaurant, and two boys, oh, probably 8, 9 years old, were really looking me over. And I just said, "Do you want to know what happened?" And one of the boys said, "I bet it was a shark bite." And I said, "Well, no, actually, it was in the shape of a car." So they just pop out with funny stuff. At first, I was very sensitive because I wasn't okay with myself yet. And I was feeling broken. And when parents would jerk their kids away, when they'd say, "Mom, why does she just have one leg?" It just reinforced that I was broken. And it was, I'm not sure, but I'm sure it took years to get comfortable with that. And I think what really helped that I was waiting for a doctor's appointment. It's summertime. I had my shorts on. Of course, my Barbie leg was sticking out, my prosthesis. And this little toddler came walking. She wasn't walking quite yet. And she inched her way over, holding onto the chairs. And her mother, I could just see her out of the corner of my eye, just dying a thousand deaths because she didn't know what was happening. And this little girl came over and patted my artificial knee and looked up at me and said, "Oh, pretty." That was her limited vocabulary. And I looked at Mom and I said, "It's been called a lot of things, but it's never been called pretty." You could just see the relief flow out of this lady. So I think from that on, I was like, yeah, maybe it's not so bad.
No, it wasn't so bad. But what a wonderful thing. Children are amazing. They they give us hope. They give us
Oh, yes.
confidence. They give us so much. Now, why did you write this story of your life, your memoir?
Because I was told to by
Do we know?
Mom.
Do we know someone who told you had to write that?
Yes, there was a lady by the name of Judy Morio that was quite adamant in my story, getting my story out there, and I am forever thankful.
You
But
know,
well, I was the elephant in the room from the time I lost my leg, and the more active I was and out there, and I had explaining to do, and people started telling me probably 10 years maybe into being an amputee that, well, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. Well, no, I'm not a writer. I don't care to write. I haven't had any formal training in writing. And so that went on and on until you and I met. And after a 3-hour lunch, you convinced me to start writing a book and how I could prepare for that. And one good piece of advice was you hang out with writers. So I joined our local writing group right on the river. And I can remember the first conference that I went to. I didn't even know the verbiage of what they were talking about. But I kept it up. And then I made friends. And I also, from the conference, I met a lady that encouraged us to start a writing group of just informal writing, prompts and quick writing and not editing or thinking about it. And I did that for 7 years while I was writing, really in earnest, writing my book. And that really helped me, from the encouragement from them, from the encouragement from you, and just the writing community in town. So I got it done.
yeah, and you're a very good writer. You have a lot of ability, and it was interesting because I met you in an art class. You
Yes,
you and I
yes,
were in an art class when we met, and then we went to some writers' conferences together, and
yes.
and you just worked at at becoming a really good writer. And before you really undertook the full writing of the memoir, you learned how to do it. And
another good piece of advice was to read the genre that you're going to write in. And I did that. And I was inspired by some, and some I thought, I think I can do better than that.
mm-hmm.
So that you seeing the example, and being a reformed perfectionist, I kind of like to see examples that other people have done, and because I want to do it right, and so that's how I just kind of limped along for quite a while until last summer. And Judy, you were here in town, and we had a 3-hour breakfast, and about an hour and a half in there, I thought, okay, I'm safe. She's not going to say anything about my book. And all of a sudden, here you came, out your book. Oh, Jody. And she wouldn't fill in that pregnant pause when I was just, spit and sputtering. And you just said, quit trying to make it perfect. And that was the key. That was the total key right there. It was like, okay, you gave me permission to just do it.
And aren't we glad you did? Look at how many books you've sold. Every time you turn around, you're selling more books. I think you're the best bookseller I've ever worked with.
Well, we got our well, it was published in November. We got our first order of book December 1st. We distributed the first book. And as of last week, from an event that we were at, we are over 800 books we have sold now. So I'm really proud of the work my husband, without him, he's the banker, the spreadsheet guy to keep track of things.
You know what I loved about your husband, what he said recently? He and I were talking, and he said, Pat and I always did things together. We did a lot of things together, and we rode the tandem bicycle together. And he said, we needed something new that we could do together, and this book is it. And I love that he said, we're doing this together. We're getting her message out there to the world. And I loved it. He's such a cool guy anyway.
I know. Yeah, he's he did tell me, though, he saw me struggle the 10 plus years to get it written, and he jokingly had told me, if you talk about writing another book, I'm going to shoot you. So I'm just telling you, Judy, if I end up dead, there's a manuscript somewhere in this house.
Well, I'll find the manuscript and get it published for you if he kills you.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, what has been surprising to you about getting the book published?
The opportunity it has brought, talking with service groups like Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions. I was at a Rotary group, and they had their regional meeting a few weeks ago. I talked to them the week before the weekend when that happened, and they asked me, or invited me to have a table to sell my books, that they needed my positive energy.
Yeah.
Things like that. I was on a panel I've been asked to be on panels. This is crazy. And last week I was on one talking about accessibility to challenge people in the out of doors. I made 2 connections there. One with it's called Outdoor Wenatchee, and they have a website. And she said, send me the picture of your book and a short bio, and I'll put it on our website. Well, they have tens of thousands of people.
Wow.
On their site. Yeah. So just opportunities like that I didn't expect. from writing
See,
the book.
you're such a positive person. You know, what happened to you really was a tragedy. And you could have just sat down and sat in a wheelchair for the rest of your life and said, well, poor me, my life's over. I'm going to sit here and feel sorry for myself. But no, you were a snow skier ahead of time, and you went on to learn to ski on that one leg, on one ski, and you ended up winning all kinds of awards in New Zealand, I think it was, where you were skiing in international championship ski contest or whatever they are. And I mean, I'm just you've just kept on and done it, and you've been positive through it all. And I think people want to know, well, how do you do that when you've been through so much pain?
Well, I'm sure it's the way I grew up. I'm sure it's what I watched my parents do. Regardless of how they felt, they always got up, dressed up, and showed up. And just by showing up, I encourage people that I don't know I've encouraged, which is a surprise. Well, it's not a surprise to me. I'm very approachable. When I first started using the wheelchair all the time, people didn't make eye contact, and that really bothered me. And so that was my mission. You're going to make eye contact with me, or I'm going to run into you. And then,
Did you run into a lot of people?
enough. And so, but the more, because I've lived in this town for totally for 43 years. And so people know me now. And it's kind of fun because we'll be down at our market, which is real easy for me to get around. And people say, oh, there you are. Where did we get your book? And so it's like I point because I've always got them on the back of my wheelchair. I've gotten very brazen about my book. I got to share one quick story. Well, maybe two. We went to a restaurant, and this older couple, they smiled, and we sat down, and I told Joe, I'm going to go work the room. And so I went over to him, and I said, hi, how are you? How are you? Isn't the food great here? I said, you know what my husband just told me? And they go, no, what? He said I had to buy my own dinner. Would you buy my book?
So I can pay for my dinner.
And so she goes, oh my gosh, my coworkers need this. Okay. And so when they left, I thanked them for feeding me. This whole story is like, I'm just having fun with it.
Yes.
And I can finally, I draw attention to myself just by being around, but I don't usually like toot my own horn. But I can honestly say right now, I am proud of what you and I accomplished.
Well, I'm
really
very proud. I have to tell you, you were hard to convince because you weren't sure that other people would see your story as a benefit to them. But in my heart of hearts, I knew that you are such a great example of someone who's come through really rough times and still been positive and made a good life and still went out there and skied on that one ski and taught. I mean, you were teaching people with two skis how to ski when you were only on one. I mean, these are all incredible stories that are in the book, and you're just an amazing woman. And I think when people hear you speak, when they hear your story, when you tell it to them, they want to take that and share it with somebody. They all know somebody who's been through some kind of pain or some kind of tragedy, and they want to take that book and give it to them and say, here, you can do this too.
And that's another surprising thing about my book. People that buy one book will come back and buy more. I had a gal that I taught school with, and she bought two books around Christmas time. She came back and bought 10.
Mm. It's a good
Yeah, to
message.
give them to people. And she's got one loaner that
Uh-huh.
she loans out. And that's one thing I tell people too that buy my book that actually in person is that do not let it gather dust on a bookshelf. I want it to move. It's meant to move.
It is.
So I'm not sure if that's happening. My husband to start with, he goes, "Oh, don't tell people that. We want to sell some books first." I said, "No, I don't care." So
The
some
important thing is
of
the
the
message.
reaction, excuse
I
me.
think that's the thing that you've always said to me is the important thing to get out is the message, that you wanted to
Right.
have the message out to people that they could overcome challenges.
And the people that helped me with my manuscript to start with, I'm like 30,000 words into it, and I'm told it's too Pollyanna. People aren't going to relate to you. Well, I redid. I followed advice, and when we were in Mazatlan, we took books, and I had a lady come the next morning and say, "You even made my retired Marine cry. What's with that?" Okay.
Was that her husband that was reading it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And he cried.
And then I almost feel like I need to write a book about the people that have read my book because then they share, like you say, everyone has a story. Then they share their trauma
Mm-hmm.
with me.
Yes.
And some of them, whew, yeah. So it's quite a ride. I'm riding the wave.
Yeah. And now the next thing I know, you're going to be joining the National Speakers Association and going on tour, huh?
Well, funny you would say that. It's not quite to that extent yet, but I was speaking at a Kiwanis group last week, and there was a person here high up in the organization from Spokane. And after I talk about how I started writing, and that was writing short stories for you, for your magazine. And
Mm-hmm.
I read my one Mission Ridge taunts me. Then I read the chapter in my book about graduation night. And I'm telling you, all the times I've read this in readings, I cannot get past the last three sentences without choking up. Anyway, this gentleman told me that not this August, but next August, they're going to have the regional meeting here, and he would like me to speak.
Ah.
We'll see if he comes through. I don't know.
Yeah.
But and
Will.
he also told me you need to do an audio book and you read it. You have
Yes.
a great voice. So
You do.
Judy, what I'm doing right now, Joe has ordered some audio equipment.
Good.
I'm practicing. I'm practicing on my phone,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just doing it.
But you know what? Isn't that amazing that you don't know what you're doing, but you're just doing it? And isn't that what you've had to do ever since that accident?
Adapting, always
Adapt,
adapt.
adapt, adapt.
And it seems like every 10 years, I have a new challenge with aging. And I'm not through adapting. Some of it's very painful.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But we're always, like Joe said, we're always trying to find something that we can do together.
Mhm.
And not only are we dealing with this book, but 2 years ago, we started bowling. I wheelchair bowl. And um, I started out the first year in league. I think I ended up with like 100 average. Well, the first time I bowled without the bumpers, I had like a 34. So then I got my own ball. I got a different wheelchair, and so that's what we're doing right now. for bowling. And we started wheelchair dancing.
Really?
In Mazatlan, the servers were all friends because we've been down there a lot. And so I wanted the servers to dance with me. Ishmael. He goes, "Oh, I don't dance." And I go, "Come on." And so I made a dancer out of him. And the next day I was wheeling on the pool, and from behind me, I heard this gentleman say, "So when did you become the life of the party?" It was like kind of embarrassing because it was like, well, I've always been positive.
I think you've always been the life of the party.
So it's infectious, just in the state of the world now, it's infectious to be positive and happy and just enjoy what I've got and do what I can do. So.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So what's next? Yeah, I got something in the works. My interest in up in the air activities.
I was just going to ask you about that. And then I thought, I wonder if she wants to tell everybody about all these up in the air things she's been doing.
Oh, yeah. Why not? So the only one I have not done is paragliding.
Uh-huh.
And that's jumping off a cliff with a
Glide
type deal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got the means to get that done this summer.
You're going to do it this summer.
Yep. Joe, a fellow that Joe graduated from high school with, and he became an ER doc. Anyway, he saw that in my book, and he said, "We'll make that happen."
All right.
Because I've been zip lining and parasailing and
parachuting.
Pardon me?
And you were parachuting.
And I jumped out of an airplane. Yeah. And been in a helicopter. I've been in a hot air balloon. So I am not going to bungee jump. No, I value my spine too much.
Yeah, that's.
But I will jump off a cliff.
You're amazing.
Oh yeah, I went up in an airplane. It's called a Long Easy. That our neighbor is a physicist at Hanford, and he built from a kit in 1984. And I got to go. It's a 2-seater, so we went for a little ride, and he took me up toward Leavenworth over what's called the Enchantments. It's a very popular hiking trail. You have to it's a lottery to be drawn whether you can go or not. And I got to see the Enchantments from an airplane.
Oh, from the air. Amazing.
So, yeah, amazing. It was. So that's, besides selling books and jumping out of whatever.
Whatever's up high. Well,
yeah,
and we have pictures of that plane. We have pictures of that plane in the book, and we have pictures of you doing all these different activities. And
yes, we do. Yeah, the book has pictures, lots of pictures. What's really intriguing about my book with the pictures is that I was co-editor of our senior annual. I started anyway. And there's a picture of my co-editor and I walking down the front of the high school. And it's the last picture of my real leg. I mean, it was just kind of startling to see that at first.
Yes.
And then there's a picture of Joe and I. We went together in junior college, and we were at homecoming at the dance. And you cannot tell which one is my prosthesis. That was pretty cool. They worked really hard to match it to my leg, the color, the shape. They don't make them like that anymore.
No, no. Well, and again, the story of you having to go and be fitted for the prosthesis and what you went through with it, that's all in the book. And it's quite a story. It's really interesting and fascinating. I guess if you've never lost a limb or you've never been around someone that did, you wouldn't have any idea what it takes to actually make an artificial limb.
Right. Yes. There's a lot of fittings. Of course, your body never stays the same. And so if I would lose weight, it would hurt. If I gained weight, it would hurt. So that was my natural barometer for years when
Yeah.
I was in prosthesis. But there in the book, it talks about, I mean, I didn't just have it amputated and that was it. Um, there's more in the book about the complications from that because 2 days after, it was either a day or 2 days after I graduated, I went back in the hospital and had it cut off 4 more inches again. And then from that, I got hospital staff. So I'm back in the hospital for 2 weeks. My medical history is long.
Yeah. It certainly is. And I understand so much about the pain that you went through. And I've just, having you for a friend is a real blessing. I've been able to be with you and see some of the things you've had to go through, and you're just a trooper. You just do it. And I'm so glad that you finally did get this book written with everything in there because it is a book people should read. It's a book that tells me, wow, if Pat can do this without whining about it, I need to quit whining about myself and my issues. And I was telling myself that recently when I had the knee replacement. I was like, just shut up. You still got your knee. So move on. And and you were so kind to me. You were like, let me drive you and help you in and out. And I'm like, why is she helping me in and out? But there you were.
The blind leading the blind. Nothing wrong with that.
So listen, let's tell my viewers where they can get your book because they can get it on Amazon, right?
Yes, there's about actually any given day there can be up to 7 distribution sites. So if your listeners just type in Pat West Turner, my full name,
Pat
they'll
West
pop.
Turner,
Yeah,
and it'll
they'll
pop up.
pop
And the name of the book is Skiing Uphill,
uphill.
and the subtitle is
A story of strength and perseverance.
The Story of Strength and Perseverance. And it has been a story of strength and perseverance, that's for sure. And they can get it on any of those places. If they wanted to contact you about being a speaker at their event or maybe just to tell you how great your book is and how much they've enjoyed it, how would they go about doing that?
Send me an email. I like that. If you want an autograph copy, send me an email and we are happy for additional fee to mail it to you.
Okay. And
and you can,
that email address, that email address is?
That email is pturnerj2 at nwi.net.
P Turner
That's
J2, P Turner J2 dot
at
nwi.net.
Well, now I just said that, but we have another one, and it's called Skiing Uphill 22 at gmail.com.
Skiing Uphill 22 at gmail.com. John will put those on the screen so that people will be able to see it.
Okay, that's great because I haven't gotten used to using that email address yet, but everything associated with the book.
Yeah, we should use that email. Yeah, for the book. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's been wonderful again. I love seeing you as always, and I hope to see you in person again before too much longer. You got to come to Vegas.
I know. We do need to do that. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
to my busy schedule.
Thank you so much. You'll probably come here to be a speaker at one of the big hotels at one of the events, right? Yes.
Make it happen. Make it happen. I got an in.
Okay, thank you. And
Yeah,
thank you.
Judy,
Sorry.
thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping make it happen.
It's my pleasure. And
You're
thank you for
amazing.
being with us today. We hope you enjoyed it. And I know that this is one book you'll want to run out and get, Skiing Uphill, a story of strength and perseverance by Pat West Turner. So thank you for joining us, and please be with us next week for another wonderful guest.